Welcome to Life Confusions TV. Try to relax and feel the story.
If you had asked me a year ago what the happiest moment of my life would look like, I would have described a wedding. A white dress, a small garden ceremony, close friends, family, and the man I thought I would spend the rest of my life with. Back then, I believed love was simple. I believed if you trusted someone enough, they would never betray you. I was wrong. And the worst part? I didn't discover the betrayal years later. I discovered it 3 weeks before the wedding, and by then, it was already too late for him to escape what I had planned. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning. My name is Emily. I'm 31 years old, and I live in San Diego. For most of my 20s, I worked 2 jobs. During the day, I was a marketing assistant. At night, I did freelance graphic design. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills. And slowly, very slowly, I started saving money. Not for a house, not for a car, for my wedding. I know that sounds old-fashioned, but ever since I was a little girl, I imagined one perfect day. Not a huge celebrity wedding, just something beautiful, something real, something that meant commitment. When I met Daniel, I thought that dream had finally come true. We met at a friend's birthday party. He was charming, funny, the kind of man who could walk into a room and immediately make everyone feel comfortable. He worked in real estate and seemed incredibly confident about his future. On our first date, he told me something that made me fall for him instantly. He said, "Emily, I don't care about fancy things. I just want a life with someone loyal." Loyal. Funny how that word would come back to haunt me. We dated for 3 years. And honestly, they were good years. We traveled together. We adopted a small golden retriever named Max. We spent weekends cooking, watching movies, and planning our future. Daniel wasn't perfect, but neither was I. And that felt normal, healthy. When he proposed, it happened exactly the way you'd expect. Sunset, ocean view, a small ring box, and the question every woman dreams about. "Will you marry me?" I said yes before he even finished the sentence. The ring wasn't huge, but it was beautiful. And I didn't care about the size. Because to me, it meant something much bigger. It meant trust. A few months later, we started planning the wedding. We agreed on something important from the start. We would pay for it ourselves. No parents involved. No family drama. Just us. I had already saved around $120,000 over the years. Yes, $120,000. I know that sounds like a lot, but remember, it wasn't saved overnight. It was nearly a decade of work, late nights, freelance projects, skipped vacations, extra shifts. Daniel promised he would contribute too, but his business had been slow recently. At least that's what he told me. So most of the wedding fund sat in my savings account. And I didn't mind, because we were building something together. Or, at least, that's what I thought. 3 months before the wedding, we finally booked everything. The venue, the catering, the photographer, the dress. The total cost was going to be around $95,000. Expensive, but manageable. We even joked that we'd still have some leftover money for our honeymoon in Italy. Everything felt perfect. Until one random Tuesday night. That was the night my entire life changed. Daniel was in the shower. His phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. Normally, I never checked his phone. I trusted him. But the message preview caught my eye. It said, "Did she send the $120,000 yet?" My stomach tightened. I remember staring at the screen, trying to convince myself I misunderstood something. Maybe it was about a client. Maybe it was about real estate. Maybe. The phone buzzed again. Another message. From the same contact. The name was Rachel. And the message said, "Once you get the money, transfer it to the account I sent." My hands went cold. Rachel. I knew that name. She was Daniel's ex-girlfriend. He had dated her years before we met. And according to him, they hadn't spoken in a long time. But suddenly, none of that felt true anymore. I wish I could say, I calmly put the phone down, that I respected privacy, that I trusted my fiancé. But I didn't. Instead, I unlocked the phone, and what I saw next made my heart stop. Because the messages weren't confusing. They were painfully clear. Daniel wasn't just talking to his ex. He was planning something with her. Something involving my $120,000 wedding fund. And the worst message of all said, "Don't worry, Emily trusts me completely. She'll never suspect anything." I remember reading that line 3 times. My chest felt tight. My hands were shaking. The man I was about to marry, the man I had trusted for 3 years, was planning to steal my money with his ex and disappear. The shower turned off. Water stopped running. Daniel would walk out any second, so I quickly locked the phone and placed it exactly where it had been. Then I sat down at the kitchen table, trying to breathe, trying to think, trying not to cry, because at that moment, I realized something important. Daniel thought I was naive. He thought I would never discover the truth. And suddenly, an idea started forming in my mind. If he wanted to play a game, I would let him. In fact, I would let him think he was winning, all the way until the wedding day. That night, I barely slept. I kept staring at the ceiling while Daniel slept peacefully beside me. His breathing was calm, slow, completely relaxed, the kind of sleep only an innocent person should have. But Daniel wasn't innocent. Not anymore. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the messages again. Rachel, the $120,000. Emily trusts me completely. The humiliation burned more than the betrayal. Because he wasn't just stealing my money. He was laughing at me while doing it. But crying wouldn't fix anything. Confronting him immediately wouldn't help either. If I accused him now, he would deny everything. Or worse, he would disappear. And I would never know the full truth. So instead of reacting emotionally, I decided to become patient. Very patient. The next morning I woke up before Daniel. I made coffee, breakfast, acted exactly the same as always. When he came into the kitchen, he kissed my cheek. "Morning, future wife." I smiled. "Morning." For a moment, I studied his face. The same warm smile, the same charming voice, the same man I thought I knew. And suddenly I realized something terrifying. He was a really good liar. Because if I hadn't seen those messages, I never would have suspected anything. During breakfast, he casually asked, "Did you transfer the wedding money to the joint account yet?" There it was, the moment he had been waiting for. Our plan had always been simple. A month before the wedding, we would move the $120,000 into a shared account to pay vendors. Daniel had suggested that idea. Now I understood why. I forced myself to sound relaxed. "Not yet," I said. "I'll probably do it this week." He nodded. "Good. Some deposits are coming up." Then he stood up, grabbed his jacket, and headed for the door. Before leaving, he turned and smiled again. "Love you." I smiled back. "Love you too." The door closed, and the second he left, my expression disappeared. Because now I had confirmation. He wanted the money moved. That was step 1 of his plan, which meant something else. I still had time. The first thing I did that morning was call my bank. I explained that I wanted to open another account, a private one, not connected to Daniel, not connected to our future joint account. Within an hour, the entire $120,000 was moved there. Safe, untouchable. But that wasn't enough. If Daniel checked the balance, he would notice the money was gone. So I did something smarter. I transferred $120,000 into the joint account from a temporary credit line my bank offered. Yes, the money looked real, but technically, it wasn't mine. And soon it wouldn't be my problem either. Now the trap was set. Daniel would think he had access to my savings. But in reality, he was walking into something much bigger. That evening, he came home excited. Too excited. "How did the transfer go?" he asked casually while taking off his shoes. I pretended to check my phone. "Oh yeah," I said. "I moved the money this afternoon." His eyes lit up for half a second. Just a second. But I noticed. "Perfect," he said quickly. Then he hugged me. And for the first time in 3 years, that hug felt completely empty. Over the next week, I started paying attention to everything. Little things. Phone calls he took outside. Messages he hid. Nervous glances at his bank app. One night, I even heard him whispering on the balcony. He thought I was asleep, but I heard enough. "Rachel." Again. And one sentence I will never forget. "Don't worry. As soon as the money clears, I'm done with her." Done with her. 3 years together. A wedding planned. A life built. And to him, I was just a step in a financial plan. That was the moment something inside me changed. The sadness disappeared, and something colder replaced it. Determination. Because Daniel thought he was smarter than me. He thought he was manipulating a trusting fiancé. But what he didn't know is this. I had started documenting everything. Every message I saw. Every suspicious transfer. Every late-night phone call. Screenshots. Dates. Times. Because if he wanted to steal from me, I was going to make sure the consequences were unforgettable. And then something interesting happened. 2 weeks before the wedding, Daniel suddenly suggested something. Something that made my plan even better. We were sitting on the couch looking at wedding details when he said, "You know what would be amazing?" "What?" I asked. "A big wedding gift for us. Like something symbolic." "Like what?" He smiled. "A house." I raised an eyebrow. "A house?" "Yeah," he said. "We could use some of the wedding money as a down payment. Start our life together." I almost laughed. Not because the idea was crazy, but because it was so obvious what he was doing. He wanted access to the money immediately after the wedding, which meant his real plan was probably simple. Marry me, transfer the funds, disappear. But I nodded slowly. That actually sounds nice. His smile widened, and I could practically see the calculations happening in his head. Poor Daniel. He had no idea that by the time the wedding day arrived, the biggest surprise of his life would be waiting for him, right at the altar. 2 weeks before the wedding, everything looked perfect from the outside. The venue was ready. The dress had arrived. Friends and family were flying into San Diego. My mother called me almost every day asking if I was nervous. I always gave the same answer, just excited. And technically, that wasn't a lie, because I was excited, just not for the reasons everyone thought. Meanwhile, Daniel was acting like the perfect fiancé. Flowers, dinner dates, wedding planning. He even surprised me one night with a small gift. A necklace. "Just something to remind you how lucky I am," he said. Lucky. That word almost made me laugh. But I smiled anyway, because the most important part of my plan was simple. Daniel had to believe everything was normal. The more comfortable he felt, the harder the fall would be. Around that time, I also decided to talk to someone who could help me. Not a friend, not family, a lawyer. I found a local attorney who specialized in financial fraud and relationship disputes. Her name was Karen, and she listened very carefully while I explained everything. The messages, the plan to steal the $120,000, Rachel, the upcoming wedding. When I finished talking, she leaned back in her chair and asked one question. "Do you want revenge or do you want protection?" I thought about that for a moment. Then I said something very honestly. "Both." Karen smiled slightly. "Well," she said, "if he transfers that money after the wedding and disappears, it could qualify as fraud." She explained that because the funds technically came from a credit line, Daniel would legally be responsible if he withdrew them. Which meant one thing. If he tried to steal the money, he wouldn't just lose me. He could face serious legal consequences. Hearing that made my plan feel even better. But Karen gave me one more piece of advice. "If you want the truth," she said, "let him think he's winning." Luckily, I was already doing exactly that. Over the next few days, Daniel started acting more impatient. He checked the bank account constantly. Sometimes I noticed him smiling while looking at his phone, probably texting Rachel, planning their escape. One evening, he came home unusually happy. "What happened?" I asked. "Good news," he said. "What kind of good news?" "A real estate deal finally closed." I raised an eyebrow. "That's great." He nodded. "Yeah, everything's finally falling into place." I almost asked, "For you and Rachel?" But of course I stayed quiet, because the more confident he became, the better the ending would be. 1 week before the wedding, something interesting happened. Daniel left his laptop open on the kitchen table. Normally it had a password, but this time it was already unlocked, and curiosity got the better of me. I checked his email. Within seconds, I found exactly what I expected. A confirmation message from an airline. 2 tickets. San Diego to Cancun. Departure date: the morning after our wedding. But the name on the second ticket wasn't Emily. It was Rachel Harper. I stared at the screen for a long time. Part of me still couldn't believe the level of deception. Daniel wasn't just planning to steal my money. He was planning a honeymoon with his ex, using my savings, using my wedding, using my trust. That was the moment I knew something for certain. He deserved everything that was about to happen. So I took screenshots of the tickets, saved them, and quietly closed the laptop. When Daniel came home later that evening, he looked at me and smiled. "Only 5 days until we're married." I smiled back. 5 days. He kissed my forehead. "I can't wait." Neither could I. But not because I wanted to marry him. Because I wanted to see his face when he realized the truth. And the truth was simple. Daniel thought the wedding day would be the beginning of his new life. But in reality, it would be the day everything collapsed. For him, the morning of the wedding arrived faster than I expected. Sunlight filled the hotel room where I was getting ready with my bridesmaids. Everyone was excited, laughing, drinking champagne, talking about how beautiful the ceremony would be. My best friend Lily was helping me with my dress. "Emily," she said, "you're going to make Daniel cry today." I smiled softly. Maybe. What she didn't know was that someone would cry that day. But it probably wouldn't be Daniel. At least, not in the way she imagined. While the makeup artist worked on my hair and makeup, my phone buzzed. It was a notification from the bank. I opened the app. The joint account balance still showed $120,000, exactly where Daniel thought it was. But the truth was very different, because that money wasn't mine. And very soon, it would become Daniel's biggest mistake. Around noon, we arrived at the venue. It was a beautiful garden overlooking the ocean. White chairs lined the aisle, flowers everywhere, soft music playing. Guests were already arriving. Family members hugged me. Friends told me how happy they were for us. And I smiled at all of them, because none of this was their fault. They believed they were attending a wedding. In a way, they were. Just not the wedding Daniel expected. 15 minutes before the ceremony, the wedding coordinator came to get me. "Are you ready?" she asked. I looked in the mirror one last time. White dress, perfect makeup, a bride ready to walk down the aisle. "Yes," I said. "I'm ready." As the music started, the doors opened. Everyone stood up. I could see Daniel waiting at the altar. He looked confident, relaxed, like a man who believed everything was going exactly according to plan. When he saw me walking down the aisle, he smiled. Guests whispered about how beautiful the moment was, how perfect we looked together. And for a brief moment, I almost felt sad, because 3 weeks ago, this could have been real. But then I remembered the messages, the plane tickets, Rachel, and the sadness disappeared. I reached the altar. Daniel took my hands. "You look incredible," he whispered. "Thank you," I said. The officiant began the ceremony, talking about love, commitment, trust. The irony was almost unbearable. After a few minutes, we reached the vows. Daniel went first. He spoke about loyalty, partnership, building a future together. Several guests were already wiping tears from their eyes. It was a beautiful speech. Too bad it was all a lie. Then it was my turn. I took a deep breath and looked directly into Daniel's eyes. Daniel, I began. When we met 3 years ago, I believed you were the most honest man I had ever known. Guest smiled, listening carefully. I trusted you with my heart, my future, and even my life savings. Daniel's smile tightened slightly, just slightly. I spent years saving $120,000 for this wedding. A few people nodded. They already knew that story. But 3 weeks ago, I continued calmly. I discovered something interesting. Now, the atmosphere changed. Guests shifted in their seats. Daniel's fingers tightened around mine. What do you mean? He whispered quietly. I ignored the question. Instead, I reached into the small envelope I had hidden in my bouquet. Then I pulled out several printed pages, screenshots, messages, plane tickets, and I held them up. I discovered that my fiancé had been secretly planning to steal my wedding fund. The crowd went completely silent, with his ex-girlfriend Rachel. Daniel's face instantly lost all color. What are you doing? He whispered sharply. But I continued speaking.
Calm, clear.
Loud enough for everyone to hear. These messages show Daniel discussing how he planned to transfer the $120,000 and leave the morning after our wedding. A few shocked gasps came from the guests. I held up another paper. And this is the honeymoon flight he booked. I paused. Not for me. Then I read the name. Rachel Harper. People began whispering. Daniel stepped closer to me. Emily, stop, he hissed. But I wasn't finished. Oh, don't worry, I said. I'm almost done. Then I smiled and said the line that changed everything. The good news, Daniel, is that the money really is in the account. His eyes flickered with relief for a split second, until I continued. But what you didn't know, I leaned slightly closer, is that the money came from a credit line. Now his face looked confused. I spoke slowly, so everyone could understand. That means whoever withdraws the $120,000 becomes legally responsible for the debt. The silence was absolute. So, if you were planning to steal it, I shrugged slightly. Congratulations. I looked directly at him. You just stole $120,000 from the bank. And that's when the panic finally appeared in Daniel's eyes. But the best part? That wasn't even the end of my surprise. For a few seconds, nobody moved. The ocean waves behind the garden were the only sound. Daniel was still holding my hands, but now his grip had turned stiff. Uncomfortable. Emily, he said quietly, forcing a nervous laugh. This isn't funny. I tilted my head slightly. You're right, I said. It really isn't. The guests were whispering now. Some people looked confused. Others looked shocked. My mother had her hand over her mouth. Daniel tried to pull me closer, so only I could hear him. Stop this right now, he whispered through clenched teeth. We can talk about this later. But I gently pulled my hands away. There won't be a later. Then I turned toward the guests. I'm really sorry everyone had to come here today expecting a wedding. I paused. But I didn't want Daniel to disappear with $120,000 and pretend none of this happened. A murmur moved through the crowd. Daniel's father stood up suddenly. What is she talking about? He demanded. Daniel ran a hand through his hair. She's confused, he said quickly. This is some kind of misunderstanding. I raised one of the printed pages again. A misunderstanding? I said calmly. Then I read one of the messages out loud. Rachel, once the money clears, we'll leave right after the wedding. She trusts me completely. The crowd erupted in whispers. Daniel's face turned pale. Those messages are fake, he said. I almost admired the confidence. Even now, he was trying to lie his way out. But then I pulled out my phone and pressed play. His voice filled the speakers. The recording from the balcony. Don't worry, Daniel's voice said clearly. As soon as the money clears, I'm done with her. Several guests gasped. Someone in the back muttered, "Oh my God." Daniel's eyes widened. Where did you get that? I shrugged. You shouldn't take secret phone calls on a balcony with thin walls. His mother slowly sat down in her chair. She looked like she might faint. Daniel tried one last desperate move. He stepped closer to me and lowered his voice again. "Emily, listen to me," he said urgently. "You're overreacting. We can fix this." Fix this. The words almost made me laugh. 3 weeks ago, I would have believed him, but not anymore, because I had spent those 3 weeks preparing for this moment. "You're right about one thing," I said calmly. "What?" he asked. "This situation will definitely be fixed." And right on cue, 2 people stepped into the garden from the side entrance. A man and a woman, both wearing dark suits.
Karen.
My lawyer, and a uniformed police officer. The entire crowd turned to look. Daniel's shoulders stiffened instantly. The officer walked forward slowly. "Daniel Carter?" he asked. Daniel swallowed. "Yes." The officer held up a document. "We've received a report regarding potential financial fraud involving a transfer of $120,000. The color drained from Daniel's face completely now. "This is ridiculous," he said quickly. "I didn't steal anything." Karen stepped forward calmly. "That's true," she said. "Not yet." Everyone looked confused. Daniel stared at her. "What does that mean?" Karen folded her arms. "It means the moment you attempt to withdraw the money from that account, you become responsible for the entire $120,000 credit line." Daniel blinked, his brain clearly trying to process everything. "But the money is hers," he said weakly. I shook my head. "No," I said. "It isn't." The officer looked directly at Daniel. "So before any funds are moved, we strongly recommend you clarify your intentions." Daniel looked around the crowd, at his parents, at our friends, at the guests who had come to celebrate our wedding. And for the first time, he finally understood. Everyone knew. His entire plan had just collapsed in front of 120 witnesses. And the worst part? Rachel never showed up to rescue him. Because right at that moment, my phone buzzed. A new message from Rachel. I opened it and started laughing softly. Daniel looked at me nervously. "What?" he asked. I turned the screen toward him. Rachel's message said, "Daniel, I just saw the live stream. Don't ever contact me again." Apparently, one of the guests had been recording everything. And the internet works fast. Very fast. Daniel stared at the screen, then at the crowd, then back at me. And finally, he whispered the words I had been waiting for. "You ruined my life." I smiled calmly. "No," I said. "You did that yourself." Then I gently lifted the front of my wedding dress, turned around, and walked away from the altar, leaving Daniel standing there,
Alone.
As I walked away from the altar, I could hear the chaos starting behind me. Guests whispering, chairs moving, someone saying, "I can't believe this just happened." But I didn't turn around. For 3 weeks, I had imagined this moment. And strangely, I didn't feel angry anymore. I felt calm, relieved, like I had just escaped something dangerous. Outside the garden, the ocean breeze hit my face. My best friend Lily ran after me. "Emily," she called. I stopped near the stone path overlooking the water. She looked at me like she had just watched a movie she couldn't process. Was all of that real? I nodded slowly.
Yeah.
She shook her head in disbelief. "I thought you were going to marry him." "So did I said quietly. For a moment, we just stood there looking at the ocean. Then Lily asked the question everyone probably wanted to know. "How long did you know?" 3 weeks. Her eyes widened. "You planned all of that for 3 weeks?" I nodded again. I needed him to think he was winning. Lily let out a long breath. "Well," she said, "that was the most savage wedding I've ever attended." For the first time that day, I laughed. A real laugh. Not forced. Not polite. Just honest relief. Behind us, the garden was still full of confused guests. Daniel's parents were arguing with him. Some people were leaving. Others were still talking to the police officer. But that wasn't my problem anymore. Later that evening, I went back to the apartment we used to share. Only this time, Daniel wasn't there. Most of his things were gone. Apparently, after the ceremony disaster, he packed a few bags and left, probably hoping to escape the humiliation. But humiliation travels fast, especially when there's video. Because yes, someone had uploaded the wedding confrontation online. By the next morning, the video had already spread everywhere. Millions of views, thousands of comments, people calling it the most savage wedding revenge ever. Apparently, the internet loves karma. But the real consequences were much worse for Daniel. A few weeks later, I heard from mutual friends that his real estate company had fired him. Not because of the wedding drama, but because several clients didn't want to work with someone involved in a financial fraud investigation. Rachel never spoke to him again. And the $120,000 credit line? Still his responsibility if he ever touched it. As for me, I canceled the honeymoon. But I didn't cancel the vacation. Instead, I booked a trip to Italy by myself. And honestly, it turned out to be the best decision I ever made. Because walking through the streets of Florence alone, I realized something important. Daniel didn't destroy my life. He revealed the truth before it was too late. Imagine if I had discovered all of this after the wedding, after merging finances, after years of marriage. So in a strange way, that message on his phone saved me. Sometimes betrayal doesn't break you. Sometimes it protects you, because it shows you exactly who someone really is. And once you see that, you're free. So if there's one lesson from this story, it's simple. Never ignore the moment when someone shows you their true character. Believe them. And if you ever find yourself in a situation like mine, remember one thing. Revenge isn't always about anger. Sometimes, it's just about letting the truth speak in front of the right audience. And trust me, a wedding full of witnesses is a very powerful audience. Thank you for listening to my story. And if you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel Life Confessions TV. We share real stories about relationships, betrayal, and life lessons that people rarely talk about. Also tell me in the comments, what would you have done in my place? Would you expose him at the wedding or walk away quietly? I'm really curious to hear your thoughts.